In this video, I'm going to show you can generate a PDF of a long repeating group, like the one we have here, with clean page breaks. So you'll see here we have the Create PDF button. I'm going to click that, and after a couple of seconds, we're going to get our PDF generated. And if I open it up, you'll see here we're getting an 8-page long PDF with clean page breaks where the repeating group cells don't get split across 2 pages. I'm also going to show you how you can add in headers, footers, some other kind of nice formatting tricks as well. We're then going to go through how to generate a PDF of a long repeating group that isn't visible to the user. So you can see here we're on the long RG page and there's no button to generate the PDF. That's actually on the index page. But when I click the Create PDF button there, what we're actually going to do is still generate a PDF of the repeating group, even though it's not visible to the user. And you can see here we're getting the nicely formatted PDF with clean page breaks. I will note there's a built-on bubble badge here. That's only because I'm on the free plan. This won't be an issue for you if you're on a paid plan. We're also going to go through a few other tricks on how to nicely format your PDF. We're going to start off by generating a PDF of a long repeating group that's visible on the same page as the user. So the idea is the user clicks the Create PDF button and they get a nice PDF generated of this repeating group with nicely laid out page breaks and all of that. Maybe before we go into the PDF generation itself, just a quick word on what we're actually doing here in terms of what data is in the repeating group. So if we click on the repeating group, you'll see here the type of content is employee, and I'm simply searching for all employees. So if I go into my data tab, you'll see here I have a data type called employee. It includes name, photo, and title. And then within app data, we have a bunch of employees here. I think we have 28 in total. Now, in terms of generating the PDF of the long repeating group, we're going to be using plugins in this video. And the first plugin we're going to be using is the PDF Creator plugin. This is a Cranford Tech plugin, and you can add it to your Bubble app by going to the Add Plugins button here and simply searching for PDF Creator. Once you've installed it, you're going to need to add the PDF Creator element to the page. So if you go to Search Assets and just search for PDF, you'll see PDF Creator is now an element that's available because we've installed the PDF Creator plugin. And I'm just going to drop it down here, and I'm going to put it at the bottom of my page. Now, importantly, you see at the moment we have an error, and that's because we haven't filled out the File Uploads Enabled field. We need to set this field to yes in order to allow PDF Creator to upload PDFs to our Bubble database. The next thing we can do is add a workflow to the Create PDF button. And what I'm going to do is under Element Actions, we're going to have an option here called Generate a PDF Creator. This is an action that comes with the PDF Creator plugin, and there's a bunch of fields we can fill out here. Not all of them are required, but there are a few that we need to fill out in order to get this working. The main one is this ID attributes field here, and we basically need to assign an ID attribute to the element we're generating a PDF of, and then add it to this field here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Settings, General, and then right down here towards the bottom under Advanced Options, you can see we can expose the option to add an ID attribute to HTML elements. You're going to need to make sure that this is checked if you want to use the PDF Creator plugin. Okay, let's go back to our workflow, and we now need to add an ID attribute in here. So I'm going to go back to my Design tab. I'm going to select my repeating group, and right down here at the bottom, because we've checked that option, we can now add in an ID attribute. I'm going to put in target RG. I'm going to copy that, and then I'm going to go back to my workflow, and I'm going to go and paste it in there. I'm not going to change anything else at the moment. There are a few fields we can configure here, but let's just try that out. Just a quick word, you can see here, I don't actually have the kind of, update banner. That's because whenever I make a change in my Bubble app, I'm using this other plugin here, which is the auto reload page on update. It basically automatically uploads the page. I've done that by simply using that auto reload page on page load. So not really relevant to what we're doing, but it's just a useful tip. If you don't want to have to refresh every 2 minutes, you can use that plugin to automatically refresh your page. Okay, let's create our PDF and let's see how it looks. And we can see we have that downloaded there. And we can see that's looking pretty good. You see we have our different employees. It's all the page breaks are going through nicely. So pretty happy with that. Let's just format it a bit differently. And the first thing I'm going to do is scale. We didn't set this value, and basically this defines the kind of quality of the PDF. The higher the value you put in here, the higher quality the PDF is going to be, but it's also going to be a larger file size. So I typically recommend starting around a 2 or 3 and then upgrading if you need to. I do want to put in some margins just because it looks quite condensed here at the moment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in margins of 50 on all sides. And let's change the letter from A4 to letter. And let's try that again. And it's just going to take a second given the size of the PDF we're generating. And there it is. Okay. So you can see now we have the gaps at the top and at the bottom, and everything's coming through nicely. All page breaks working as they should. There's no repeating group cells that are getting split between pages. Okay, pretty happy with that. 2 more things I want to do. First of all, I want to add a bit of information to the footer here. I think I'm going to put in the company name and then also maybe a page number. And then I also want to add the repeating group to a group so that we can put in a header at the top here. So let's deal with the footers first. And the PDF Creator plugin comes with the options to configure footers. You can see here we have a kind of section called footer. And in left footer content, what I'm going to put in is simply put in Cranford Tech, the company name. And then you can see here, if you read this section of the plugin documentation, you can add a page counter to either the left or the right hand side of the footer or header by typing the word page counter into it. So this is kind of a special command that instructs PDF Creator to add the page number to each of the pages. I'm also going to put in a left-right margin of 50 pixels, just so it's aligned with the rest of the repeating group. And let's take a look and see how that looks. Click on Create PDF. And let's open it up. And you can see here now at the bottom, we have Cranford Tech on page 1, Cranford Tech 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and this goes down to page 10. And again, all the repeating group cells are nicely split between the pages. Okay, so the last thing we want to do is we want to put the repeating group in a group and then put a header, maybe something like, Cranford Tech employees at the top, and then generate a PDF of that group. So it looks more like kind of an official report. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a group element. I'm going to drop it onto my canvas. I'm going to call this group report container. I'm then just going to move it above the PDF Creator element. And I'm actually going to move the repeating group into this report. So you can see now we have our group, and then within it is our repeating group. I'm going to add a text element up here as well. And I'm going to call this Cranford Tech employee list. We'll give it a heading so it looks a bit bigger. And then I'm just going to put a bit of a gap in between this and the repeating group. And I can do that by going to layout and applying gap spacing. Put in 24, I think. Actually, let's go with 18. And now that we have the group container, what we're going to do is we're going to fit with the content. And now that we have the group report container, what we're going to do is I'm going to fit with the content on the repeating group. And now that we have our group report container, I'm going to assign this an ID attribute. So I'm going to go back to appearance, and the ID attribute is going to be called group report. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to go back to my create PDF. We're going to edit the workflow, and you can see it's automatically reloading. Let's see how this is going to look. So create our PDF, open it up. And we have a bit of an issue here. Okay, so everything is coming through nicely in terms of the header and the repeating group content, but we do have an issue, which is that we have this big gap here. And the reason this is happening is, let me just zoom out so we can see it. The reason this is happening is PDF Creator is looking at the group and it's saying, okay, the group obviously isn't going to fit on one page, so let's look at the individual elements. It's adding the text element, and then it's looking at the repeating group and saying, okay, well, this isn't fitting on this page, the repeating group in its entirety, so we need to start it on the next page. Now, that's obviously not ideal, and what we can do to get around that is use a special command that comes with PDF Creator. And what you can do is, rather than just add in the group report, we can break it down into two separate ID attributes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to assign an ID attribute to the header. I'm going to call this header. And then I'm going to take the target RG ID attribute as well and use that. So if we go back to our generate PDF creator action, instead of doing group report for the entire group, I'm going to break it down into header, comma, space, and then target RG. I'm just going to change the file name as well. Let's call it Cranford Tech Employee List. And let's wait for that to refresh. And this isn't going to work perfectly this time, but I just want to show you the step that's involved in getting that perfect PDF. Okay, let's open that up. And it doesn't look any different, but we're getting there. So what we're going to do is, instead of kind of adding the repeating group as a whole, which is going to force onto the second page, we're going to break it down into individual cells. And the way we can do that is if we go back to our design tab, and if we go to the repeating group ID attribute, if we put these asterisks on either side of the ID attribute here, and then also in the workflow, this is going to tell PDF Creator to not consider the repeating group as one big element, but instead look at each of the individual cells and add them one by one, which should mean that instead of starting the repeating group here, it's going to start it up here. Okay, so let's create our PDF. Open it up, and you can see this time we're getting our repeating group starting on the first page, which is exactly what we want. There's not enough room for the third cell on the first page, so instead it's adding it in here. But yeah, that's looking pretty good, I think. So that's how you would create a PDF of a long repeating group if it's on the same page as the user. Now we're going to look at generating a PDF of a long repeating group that isn't visible to the user. So you can see here we have our same repeating group on the long RG page, but we're going to generate a PDF of it from the index page where it's not visible to the user. And to do this, we're going to be using the DocuPotion plugin. Again, this is a Cranford Tech plugin. You can install the DocuPotion plugin for free by going to the Add Plugins tab and searching for DocuPotion. Once you do that though, you're going to need to go over to pdfpotion.com and register for an account, which I'm just going to do quickly here. Once you've created an account, you're going to be brought to the DocuPotion dashboard, and you'll see here it's telling us we can get started by generating an access token in the My Account tab. So if I go here and click on Generate Access Token, I'm going to get access to it. I'm going to copy this, and then I'm going to go back to my plugin, and if I scroll down to the bottom, I'm going to paste that access token in here and also in here. You're going to be using the same access token for the live and for the dev versions. Okay, now that we have added our access token, we can go to the button on our index page. We can click Edit Workflow, and because we've installed DocuPotion, we're going to have this Create PDF action available to us. Now, there's a bunch of fields we can fill out here, even more so than with PDF Creator, but we're going to do the bare minimum at the start just to get up and running. The very first field we need to fill out is the website home URL field, and this is really simple. We just need to put in insert dynamic data, website home URL. The page name is simply the name of the page that we're generating a PDF of. So in our case, it's going to be long RG. So I'm going to type in long RG. Identifier. So we're going to need to create a data type to link the PDF to. So what I'm going to do is, in my data tab, I'm going to go to the data types. I'm going to create a new type called report. And I'm going to give it simply one field. And I'm going to create a new field for that. I'm going to call it link, and it's going to be of type text. So we'll create that, and then before we create the PDF, we're going to insert an action, and it's going to be create a new thing, and the thing is going to be a report. And because we've now created the report in step 1, and we're not going to add any fields here, in step 2, we can reference it by inserting dynamic data and doing results of step 1. And this is really important, it's unique ID. That's what you're going to want to add there. File name, I'm going to put employee list again. Callback URL is really important, but we're going to come on to it in a second. And then I'm going to leave it as an A4 for now. And you can see we have one error at the moment, which is that callback URL, but we're going to come back to that. So I'm going to refresh. Actually, I'm not going to refresh. I'm going to go to this index page in my Bubble app. I'm just going to take off debug mode for now. I'm going to click create PDF. And it's going to take a second. Okay, so you can see the loading bar has gone completely, but we don't have any PDF coming out here. And this is to be expected. Just because of the way DocuPotion works, creating a PDF of a page that isn't visible to the user, there's just a bit more complexity in setting it up, but nothing too difficult. What we will see is if we go to the Data tab of our Bubble app and we click on File Manager, we should see that we actually do have that PDF created. So you can see here it was created at the current time, which is 9:19. And if I look at employee list, we're actually getting a PDF of that page. Now, you can see there are two problems here. Number one is that the repeating group cell is breaking across two pages, which you may or may not want. And also the build on bubble sign is appearing there. And the reason for that is just the plan I'm on. That's actually not going to appear in most cases, especially if you're on the paid plan. So don't worry about that for the purposes of this video. Okay, and then the other issue, I guess, is we're getting all this kind of blank at the end, which we don't really want. And let's fix that now. So first of all, maybe getting rid of the blank pages at the end. That's really simple. All we need to do is go to the long RG page. I click on long RG. And you can see at the moment the layout, I have a min height of 14,000 pixels, which is totally unnecessary. So I'm going to delete that. And now you'll see that it's really short, which maybe we don't want. So let's just put a min height of 1,000 on it for kind of UI purposes here. But now we should not have those blank pages at the end. The next thing I want to do is I'm creating an A4 sized PDF. And if we go to our DocuPotion dashboard and we look at the docs, DocuPotion comes with really comprehensive documentation. We have recommended dimensions for creating PDFs. And it's recommended we design our PDFs using the same dimensions as the page format we're selecting. You might remember we're selecting an A4 size format. So it's recommended that the width is going to be 794 pixels and the height is 1123 pixels. Now, you'll also see down here, it's recommended not to set a fixed height on groups that are used as page containers if they contain elements of an unknown length. And that's exactly what we're doing here. Our repeating group, we don't know how long it might be, depending on how many employees are in it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, first of all, get rid of the padding on this container here, or at least on the sides. And let's do it on the bottom as well. And then for the repeating group itself, what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave that, but I am going to set a fixed width on this container here. And I'm going to set it to that I think it was a 794 pixels. Yeah. So this way we're generating an A4 size PDF and it should exactly create a PDF of this. And maybe just to show you, I'm going to set a background color on the page itself. And then on the group main container, we'll also set a color, but we'll make it white. So we can see here, we basically want to generate a PDF of everything that's white here while ignoring the gray background part of it. Okay, let's try that again. Let's create PDF. Okay, we'll just delete the old one. We are going to work on actually linking the PDF to our database so that it opens up automatically when a PDF is created. But just for now, I'm going to go into my data tab. I'm going to search again, and you can see the second one has come in. And this time we only have our 8 pages. And we're actually getting the repeating group cells splitting much more nicely across the pages. and it's only the 8 pages long, which is what we expect. Okay, so that's working pretty well. I want to make two changes. The first, as you can see here, Bubble No Code Apps is showing up as a PDF name, which we obviously don't want. So the way we can fix that is simply by going to the long RG page, clicking on the page name, and then changing the page title. So I'm going to put in Cranford Tech Employee List. And then the other thing I want to show is how you can start each cell of the repeating group on a new page of the PDF. So you'll see here at the moment we have, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and so on, which is fine. That may work for your particular use case, but maybe sometimes you want to have, a separate section or a separate page for each employee. So what you can do with that is if you click on a repeating group here and we add in an ID attribute, which we've done, and I'm just going to change this back to target RG, copy that, and then go back to our create PDF action on the index page. And you can see here there's a bunch of ways to customize it, and we're going to come back to that callback URL. But what you can do is you can add in under page break options and under repeating group page break options, we can add that ID attribute in here. And if we do that, what it's going to do is it's going to split each cell of the repeating group onto a new page. So let's try that. Click on Create PDF, close down the old one. And then if we go back to our database and go to File Manager and click on Search, we have another one. And you can see this time, we're actually getting the repeating group starting on the next page, but we don't really want it to be starting on a blank page up here. So what we can do to avoid that is instead of having the repeating group in a group itself, what we can do is we can actually just drag it out. We can delete the group, but let's also make sure our repeating group isn't going to take up too much space. Remember, if we go to layout, we want to set a fixed width of 793, and we want to set a background color as well. And let's try that again. You can see the name of the report at least did come through this time. So we had that nice name. So we generated a PDF once more. Let's go back to our data tab. Let's go to File Manager. Let's search again. And sorry, I actually deleted the last one just because I wasn't sure if it was going to work properly. But okay, you can see this time we have our first employee starting on one page. We then go down to the next page. We have our second employee, and so on and so forth the whole way down. And again, this bubble badge won't be there if you're on a paid bubble plan. I'm just kind of demoing a demo app. But you can see that's all working well. One thing I did notice was, I think it was on the very first page. Yeah, so on the second page here for Amanda, we have this kind of separator showing up, which we probably don't want if we're starting each employee on a new page. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and I'm just going to delete that from the repeating group. And then hopefully that won't be an issue next time. Okay, I do want to format this a bit more to make it look even better, and I'm going to show you some tricks on that. But before we do, I think it's probably time we started downloading these reports automatically. So what you're going to need to do is we're going to need to go to the Settings tab of our Bubble Editor. We're going to need to go to API, and we're going to need to enable Workflow API and Backend Workflows. So that's not ticked by default, but you can see I have ticked it in there. And we're essentially going to use a backend workflow to process our PDF. So go to the backend workflows tab of your Bubble Editor, and we're going to click on a new API workflow. And I'm going to call this Get PDF. I am going to expose it as a public API workflow because we need DocuPotion to be able to send the PDF to that, or the link, I suppose, to that API endpoint. We are for now going to run it without authentication, but I'm going to come back to it and show how you can authenticate this backend workflow in a minute. And we're going to add two parameters. And the first parameter is going to be ID, and it's going to be of type text. And the second one is going to be link, and it's going to be, again, of type text. It's really important that you type in these words exactly as they're defined here. So ID, link, all lowercase, it must be in that format. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go to Data Things, We're going to make changes to a thing, and we're going to do a search for reports, which is the type of data we're using to house the PDF link. And then what we're going to do is we're only going to change the first item, but we're only going to change the first item where unique ID is equal to ID. Just to give you a sense of what's happening here is DocuPotion is going to trigger this backend workflow. It's going to send the unique ID that we input into the identifier field on the create PDF action, and we're going to use that to identify the report. We're then going to say link is equal to link, and that's going to give us the link to the PDF itself. So we're nearly there, but what we need to do now on the index page where we're running the create PDF action is, you can see here we need to fill out this callback URL. And the way we get this is essentially going to be the URL that's linked to the backend workflow. So what we can do is under settings, we can copy our app name here and the workflow API root URL, and then we can paste it in here. And at the very end, we're going to add another slash, and we're going to add the name of the backend workflow we've created, which in our case was get underscore PDF. And then one more thing we need to do is, well, it's not really kind of necessary, but I do recommend it, is I would change everything from just before API. I would delete that, and I would put in insert dynamic data, and I'd put in website home URL. The reason I'm doing that is if you're using this on test versus live, this simplifies it. It kind of bubble decides whether we're sending it to the test database or the live database. Okay, so let's try and generate our PDF again. That's run. If we go to our data tab, and if we go to file manager and click on search, let's give it another second. Yep, and that's shown up here, and it should look exactly the same as the last one where we have one cell per employee. But what's really key here is that if we go to app data, you'll see here now we have a link. And if I click on this link, and I copy that, and I put it in here, say, we now have a link to our PDF, which is really useful. Okay, the next thing we want to do is obviously let the user open this link in their browser, because we don't want them or download it, but we don't want them to have to actually go into the database to access it. So what we can do is we can go to our design tab, and what we'll actually do is just edit that workflow, and we're going to create a new workflow, and I'm going to create a custom event. And the custom event is going to be called, let's do download PDF. We can always open it up later in the browser if we want. And we're going to add a new parameter. And I'm going to call this parameter report. And the type it's going to be is also report. And then I'm going to go to plugins. And you'll see here we have this download PDF action. And what we can do for link is we can add report and its link. For file name, it's going to call it Cranford Tech Employee List. And then we've now created this custom event, but we need to trigger it. And what we're going to do is we're going to trigger it when the link field has been updated. So what we can do is we can go here and we can say in custom events, we can trigger a custom event when data changes. The thing we're watching is going to be the report we're creating in step 1. And the field we're watching is link. So maybe just to go over what's happening here one more time, we're creating a blank report. We're creating a PDF, and we're using the unique ID of that report in the create PDF action. We're then saying, okay, when the link field that's associated with this report, when it changes, which is going to be when it's updated, download the PDF. So let's see how it looks. Okay, so that PDF is being generated. It takes a couple of seconds just because there's quite a bit going on with DocuPotion in the background. But you can see there it's been downloaded. If we open it up, the user now has access to that employee list. Okay, I want to add a quick UI tip. What I'm going to do is back on my design tab, I'm going to add in a floating group. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it a gradient. We're going to say it starts with that and ends with that. We're going to make it take up the full width and the full height of the screen. If we make our index page a bit smaller, we don't need 14,000 again. And in the middle, I'm just going to add in a text, and we're saying creating PDF. I'm going to put it in the middle, and we're going to bold it. And then we're also going to add in a spinner, and the way we can do that is just by adding an icon. Trying to remember which one is the right one to go for. Let's try that one. That's fine. And put that in there. Put this in the center. And then what we're going to say is this floating group is not going to be visible by default. And we're going to hide it here now. But what we're going to do is we're going to add it at the very start of our workflow. We're going to show an element. We're going to show floating group. And then when the PDF is downloaded, we're going to hide it. So we're downloading the PDF. Then we're going to hide an element, and it's going to be the floating group. So this way we get this kind of loading screen effect, where when we're creating the PDF, we get the loading screen like this. And I should really have picked a better icon, but hopefully you see what I'm kind of trying to do. It means the user can't do anything in the background. And then once the PDF is downloaded, like it is now, the loading screen is hidden. So that's just kind of a nice UI tip. If it takes a couple of seconds, which it can, then that's a nice way to kind of show the user that something is happening. Okay, I want to get back to making this look like a really nice PDF. I think we're getting there, but there's a few more things we could do to make it a bit better. But before I do, I want to go back to our backend workflow, because you might remember that we exposed this as a public API workflow, and we said it can be run without authentication, which maybe isn't ideal from a security perspective. So what we can do is if we tick this off and we then run our workflow, you're going to see that it's just going to stall essentially, because we weren't able to run the backend workflow because we didn't provide it with authentication. So if I just leave this, it's going to stay like this for the next, however, infinite long until I refresh the page. So what I'm going to do to get around that is I'm going to go back to the settings tab. Here back in our API tab, I'm going to generate a new API token. I'm simply going to call it API token. I'm then going to copy this. I'm going to go back to my plugins tab, and I'm going to add the API token to these two fields here. You can see here it says API token for authenticating backend workflows. So now when I run my create PDF action, we're creating the PDF. And you can see it's downloaded. So it does work, even though we have in our backend workflow, we have required authentication. Okay, I want to go back to my PDF and just maybe improve the design of this a bit, because if you have your PDF designed on a separate page of your app and the user is never going to see it, it really opens up a lot of possibilities. So one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my long RG page, and you can see at the moment we simply have this repeating group on the page, but I'm going to add another group here, and I'm going to call this group cover page. I'm going to make it the recommended dimensions for an A4 size page, which is 794 pixels wide and 1123 pixels high. So I'm going to say attach that style, fixed width of 794 and a fixed height of 1123. I'm then going to make this the first element on the page. I'm going to actually go back to the page itself and remove the row gap, just so there's no unnecessary gaps. And then we can actually add an image here if we want it. So just in the background, I'm going to design a quick image in Canva, but I'm essentially going to use that as my cover page. Okay, so you can see I've just uploaded a static image here as the cover page. It's going to add a text element to it. I'm going to say Cranford Tech employee list. Make that a bit bigger, bold it, change the color, and put it in the center. Maybe make it a bit bigger again. Okay, let's try generate a PDF again. So we'll create our PDF. Really should do a better job of formatting that spinner, but we'll ignore that for now. Give it a second. And we get our PDF. But you can see there we have our cover, and it's actually probably another pixel or two we could do out to the right hand side. And we get our repeating group then on each page. And then maybe one more thing we could do is just add a kind of title to each employee page. So let's go back here. And instead of having maybe the employee's name up here, maybe what we could do is we could take that and we could put it just above the group itself. And if we change this to, maybe in fact I put it up here, and then change the repeating group itself to be a column. And then we just make this a bit bigger. Okay, let me just see how that looks on preview mode. Yeah, so that looks a bit messy, but obviously it's going to look different when it's in our PDF, but maybe we can just make it look a bit better as well there. We can set that fit height to content, which we don't want, but we can put fit height to content of the group there. That'll make it look a bit better, I think. Yeah. Okay, and then the other thing we will want to do is probably add in a bit of a margin, but let's come to that in a second. Let's generate our PDF again. So let's go back here. Open it up and scroll down. And yeah, we can see there Steve on the first page, Amanda on the second. That's looking a lot better. Would like to add some margin to the top of this, or some padding, just so it's not completely at the top. So let's go here and let's go to our repeating group cell and let's add in. We can't add any padding in here. So what we might do instead is just on the create PDF action, we can add maybe a left and right margin. So let's do that. Let's add in, say, 48 and 48. And then let's also, on the create PDF action, come back here and let's add in a margin by the create PDF action, which we can do. So we can add in a top bottom margin here, and let's do 48 again. And let's refresh. And let's go back to the index page. Create our PDF. Open it up. And okay, we're now getting this kind of ugly, margin at the top and at the side there. So that's looking a bit better, but I am conscious we have that kind of gray background coming in there. And that's because we have our gray background on the page itself. So let's get rid of that. Let's just change that to be white so it matches the rest. And the way we can get rid of the margin on the cover page only, we have a kind of inbuilt special command we can do for that. What we can do is we can go to any kind of text element that's within a group on the page and just add in the special command here, remove margin. And this time when we generate a PDF, we should see no margin on the cover page, but we will get the margin on every other page. And you can add that remove margin command to text elements on any other page as well if you just don't want the margin to specifically be on that page. So let's open it up. And we're still getting a right margin there, which I must come back to in a second. But you can see here, that's looking better. That's looking better. But I'm wondering why we're getting that right-hand side margin there. That's not really what we want, or even the bottom one, come to think of it. So let me just take a look at this page here. And I think what we should have done is instead of put the margin on the repeating group itself, We should have maybe put it on the elements within it. So we're going to put 48 here, 48 here, and then 48 here and here. And let's try again. Get rid of all those old ones. Open it up. And yeah, that seemed to do the trick. So you can see here now we have our cover page. We have employee number 1, employee number 2. Again, I hate to keep saying this, but a built-in bubble badge will not be there when you're on a paid plan. But yeah, that's how you can generate a PDF of a repeating group that isn't visible to the user. One last point I want to go through is just if you're generating a PDF of a repeating group, but you don't want each cell of the repeating group to be broken onto a new page. So back in our create PDF action, you can see we're not adding anything into our new page per cell field. So if we generate a PDF of that page, we're going to get something like this, where this fits in here, this fits in here, and this one kind of gets split between 2 pages. Likewise, this gets split between 2 pages. So what you can do if you'd like is to use the Smart Break functionality that comes with DocuPotion. And it's really easy to use. All you need to do is you need to go back to your long RG. You need to click on the group that's within the cell. And because we're clicking on the group rather than the repeating group itself, we actually do need to add this text element to our group. So let's put that in there. And we can take the margins off. And we can also change it to a column. And then we can take this and this and stick that back in a row. Okay, and then what we can do is on the group itself, we can assign an ID attribute. And I'm going to call it Smart Break 1. I'm going to go back to my index page and my create PDF action. And I'm going to add that ID attribute to this field here, which is the Smart Breaks field. And what this effectively does is it says, okay, look, if the element you've assigned the ID attribute to is going to be split between 2 pages, put it onto a new page. If it's not, if it's all going to fit on the same page, brilliant, don't change it. But if it looks like it's going to be split, we're going to change it so that it only appears on the second page. And you'll see how this looks here now in a second, just after changing the loading screen as well in the background to make it look a bit better. Okay, but now if we open it up, we should see we're getting 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Yeah, so you can see there we're splitting the repeating group cell onto the next page if there's any danger that it's going to split between 2 pages. Hope that's been useful. If you do have any other questions, you can let me know in the section below. Both of the plugins that were shown in this video have pretty extensive documentation, so do feel free to check that out if you have a question and you'd be helped there.